Hi friends of cocktails! Almost exactly 1 year ago I made a Martini cocktail inspired by Japan, specifically Spring and Hanami, the tradition of enjoying the beauty of blooming cherry blossoms. This year I was inspired by this, a bottle of Chivas Mizunara. It's a marriage of Scottish craft and Japanese tradition. With honeyed floral notes and a subtle spice, I thought it would be a great choice for a Penicillin cocktail. But not just the classic. I'll make a special cocktail time twist using 3 different bee products, no ginger, and a float of Smokey Chartreuse. I'm calling it the Bee's Prescription, and it will be a doozy. But first, let's make the classic Penicillin. It's cocktail time. The Penicillin is a popular modern classic cocktail, created in the early 2000s by Sam Ross at the Milk and Honey in New York. Riffing on another Milk and Honey classic, the Gold Rush, Ross mixed blended Scotch whiskey, fresh lemon juice, a house-made ginger honey syrup, and a float of pitted Scotch on top. If you don't have ginger to make the syrup, a great alternative is a combination of honey syrup and Library & Co.'s fiery ginger syrup. This is made with Peruvian ginger root, juiced fresh, gum arabic, and pure cane sugar. It will provide the fiery flavor you want in a cocktail named after the famous antibiotic. Together with honey syrup and the garnish of a canned ginger, it's as close to a medicine you'll come while enjoying a delicious cocktail. And with the original penicillin being discovered by Scottish scientist Alexander Fleming, it's only right that 2 Scotches are used in this cocktail. The penicillin cocktail has become a staple in many high-end bars and restaurants around the world, and is enjoyed by both whiskey enthusiasts and cocktail lovers alike. And for good reason. It perfectly balances the sweetness of the honey with smokiness of the Islay whiskey. The ginger provides a spicy kick that complements the other ingredients, while Scotch is acting as a solid base needed for all of that. We've made a clarified penicillin for a Valentine's episode in the past, and I used a few different ingredients produced by bees for the 24K Gold Rush cocktail. Bees play a crucial role in our environment and food systems, so their importance cannot be overstated. They're pollinating a significant portion of the world's food crops, including fruits, vegetables, and nuts, but also wild plants and flowers, which provide food and habitat for other wildlife. But among other things, they also produce 3 things we'll use today. Honey. I'm using floral honey today. Beeswax, to wash our Scotch. And pollen, which we'll use in the cordial. Here are the ingredients I'll use for the Bee's Prescription. Beeswax-washed Chivas Mizunara Scotch Whiskey. Socho, a native Japanese spirit. A ginger-esque honey cordial. Some saline solution, and a float of smoky yellow chartreuse. So not a lot of ingredients, not a hard cocktail to assemble, but I'll first show you how to make these ingredients. Let's start with the base spirit, our beeswax-washed Mizunara whiskey. To do that, we'll use Chivas Mizunara, which has been selectively finished in casks made from Japan's indigenous oak, Mizunara. These casks are rare, more expensive than European or American oak casks, and they present complex challenges for aging whiskey. But once the process is mastered, the result in the bottle is worth it. To play on the spiced honeyed notes, we'll wash it with beeswax. For a similar result you'd get with fat washing a spirit. Combine 50 grams of beeswax with 10 ounces or 300 milliliters of our blended Scotch. Beeswax is a byproduct of honey production. Bees produce excess honey in wax honeycombs, which can be taken by beekeepers without affecting the colony. I'll be using the sous vide technique, which will make sure the wax doesn't solidify too quickly, so the whiskey really has the best opportunity to pick up the honeyed flavors and texture. Have it set to 75 degrees Celsius or 165 Fahrenheit for 2 hours. Mix the bag a few times to help it along. Once done, I'll chill the bag slightly before placing it in the freezer for the wax to solidify completely, making it possible to strain out just our washed spirit. Do that by cutting open the bag and straining it through a coffee filter. We'll use it straight from the Chemex, so we are ready to move on to the next step. And that will be our combination of ginger, honey, and lemon juice, but without using any ginger. So let's say it's ginger-esque. I wanted to add the ginger element to this cocktail without actually using any ginger, but combining other flavors with a similar profile, just as a little challenge. I did that with the help from this book, The Art and Science of Food Pairing, which I'll link below. It's such a useful tool for anyone interested in combining flavors and looking for a spark of inspiration in mixology or gastronomy. That's where I learned that ginger is in the same family, Zingiberaceae, as turmeric and cardamom. Fresh ginger root has a lemony, spicy and subtle floral flavor profile, with components similar to lemongrass, buckroot lime leaf, bitter orange, coriander, citron pepper, and others. But now, let's get the apron back on and mix those flavors with the sweet and sour components, making a wonderful cordial. Here are all the ingredients, which I'll name as I add them to the blender. I'm starting with 340 grams of water, followed by 60 ml of lemon juice. For more citrus flavors, I'm also adding 10 grams of lemon peel, 4.5 grams of orange peel, and 1 gram of makrut lime leaves. Next, another ingredient to tie this to Japan, 6 grams of rice vinegar. For sweetness, I'm adding 124 grams of plain sugar, followed by the aforementioned floral honey, 60 grams. It's of course natural for honey to crystallize, especially if it's less processed, which is what you'll get directly from a beekeeper. Now for the spice. Into a mortar, add 5 grams of white pepper, 6 grams of Sichuan pepper, and 6 grams of long pepper, also known as Tupali pepper. I'll crush this up to make the job a bit easier for the blender and to make sure we'll get enough heat from this. Next, our third bee ingredient, honey pollen, 3 grams. If you're allergic to pollen, please skip this step. Follow that 0.8 gram of coriander and 0.6 gram of turmeric powder. And finally, for the right amount of acidity of our cordial, 6.7 grams of citric and 3.3 grams of malic acids. Blend the mixture on high speed for 30 seconds or more, then we leave it to sit for at least half an hour for the flavors and spiciness to infuse the cordial. We lose a bit of that with clarification. We'll again use agar-agar for that, which needs heat to dissolve. So pour about a quarter of the whole batch into a pan, add 1 gram of agar-agar, and slowly bring the mixture to a simmer, while constantly stirring. Once it's there, turn off the heat, and pour in the rest of the liquid, again stirring to mix everything. Place our mixture into an ice bath, or a freezer, because this needs to cool completely for agar to gel the solids, which is what makes the clarification possible. Once you've reached this point, it's time to strain our cordial through a cloth filter. If the first liquid coming through isn't clear enough, just refilter it. Once agar forms an additional filter. To speed up the final part of the filtration, you can use a potato ricer and squeeze out the clarified cordial. But be really careful, not to force the particles out as well. You'll end up with a delicious honey cordial with a subtle ginger-like heat. I'll give it a try first. And this is honestly wonderful. Spicy, sweet, citrusy. Definitely not limited to being used only with scotch. So you'll have fun finding other ways for using this ginger-esque honey cordial. So why go through all of that if you can just use ginger? You can think of a cocktail being a canvas, and the flavors you use are colors, which you can just paint with, or mix them together to get something new and interesting. And it's also just fun and exciting, if you ask me. Now for the last part, the Smokey Chartreuse. I know this is a highly coveted ingredient at the moment, so we'll make a small batch. We'll just need 30 ml or 1 ounce of yellow chartreuse, a little bit of oak chips, and a smoker. Pour the nectar of the French monks into a small bottle. Mine is 11 ounces, or 330 ml. Then add the wood chips to your smoker and torch it up, filling the bottle with the smoke. Oak will of course pair nicely with our whiskey. Close the bottle, give it a shake, and leave for the smoke to settle. Then it's ready to be used as a float on our cocktail. Meaning we're finally ready to make the best prescription. Since all ingredients are clear, there's no point in shaking it, but I still want some variation, body and texture that you simply can't get from stirring. So I'll throw it. This is an age-old technique that isn't as common nowadays, but it's gaining in popularity again. Add ice to the small tin this time, and ingredients into the large one, starting with 1.5 ounce or 45 ml of our Beeswax Mizunara scotch. Follow that with a Japanese spirit soju, half an ounce or 50 ml. Next, our ginger-esque honey cordial, 1.25 ounce or 37.5 ml. The Japanese style jigger feels quite appropriate for this cocktail. Another thing that's often appropriate is 2 drops of saline solution to enhance the flavors of our cocktail. Then comes the fun part, throwing the cocktail from one tin to the other. But really it's just pouring from bigger to the smaller tin, then letting it drop back into the bigger one. Once you get a hang of it, you can increase the height. You'll feel the bottom shaker getting cold and see the volume of the liquid increase, meaning the cocktail is chilled and diluted. Before you strain it over a clear ice block, make sure it's tempered and give it a stamp of approval for a little extra flair. That little indent can then also be used for our last ingredient and the final step in the preparation, a float of our smoky yellow chartreuse on top. And that's the beast prescription. Cheers! On the nose, the smoky yellow chartreuse is providing the classic penicillin smoky aroma with added herbal notes. With the first sip, we get a nicely rounded and balanced cocktail with the velvety scotch and soju coming into the forefront. The ginger-honey combination isn't as upfront as in the original, but there's enough spice and sweetness to keep it in the penicillin family. I hope you enjoy exploring new flavors too, and I love reading about your cocktail experiments as well, so drop them in the comments below. If you want to see another penicillin twist, check out the Valentine's episode I mentioned before. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Cheers!